71. Today we're talking all about social media here and making it work for you. Social media has obviously been around for a while. Many of you are on it too. What are the best practices? What are some of the biggest mistakes that we make? And if you were just getting started today, which platform should you pick, or which platforms? How many should you choose? What's the right amount? And over the 12 years since I've been on Twitter, I've learned a lot. And then, of course, I've gone on Instagram and Facebook, and I've tried TikTok and LinkedIn and all the other things. Next week, we're going to go deep diving into each of those individual platforms. This particular stream, this particular video is going to be an overview of usage and mindset and whatnot. So welcome in, join me today. Let's have some fun. And thank you again for joining me here on The Income Stream.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much. Hello, Susanna says yay, and the show goes on. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you as well. We got a bunch of great people in the house. We got Ned TV, we got Karma Cashflow in the house. What's up? Chris Trostel, Vicky, we got Jamie in the house. We also got Just Samson, as always. I think you're 71 days straight, which is crazy. Michael Mann says, woohoo, chair dance time, right? Dancing in the chair. That's what we're doing here. Hello, Shilpa. Great to see you here today. Fantastic. Good morning, Malini. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Frugal Family Home. Good morning, Aaron. Good morning, April. Good to see you. Vicky, Margaret, Xenia, Vlada, Simply by Heart says hello from Texas. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much. We're going to have some fun today. Now, a little bit of just intro here and just welcoming and casual chat. By the way, if you have any questions now or even during the content portion of this particular stream, feel free to ask in the chat. All you have to do is type in your question. However, to help me, you can type in question first, all caps, colon, and then your question. That way it allows me to sort of feed through. By the way, for those of you who don't know, this is the AKG Lyra microphone. Not sponsored, just I really have been enjoying the testing that I've been doing with this microphone. It's been really fun. USB-C plug-in, and it can capture audio on both sides. So if you want to do an interview in person, it's really cool. And it looks really flashy. I think this is what I might use if I start streaming like video games and stuff. I don't know, we'll see, but I really like the look of this mic. It's been really fun. They sent it over to me for free, and I'm doing a review on it a little bit later. But anyway, having a lot of fun, and we're talking about social media today. In fact, this week was a deep dive into just platforms in general. On Tuesday, we talked about YouTube. On Wednesday, we talked about podcasting. Yesterday, we talked about blogging, and if you wanted to go back and watch those videos are performing very well. I did hopefully a good job of trying to pack as much information in there as possible, especially for those of you who might need a refresher or want to start from scratch on those platforms. It's a great thing to do. However, what you don't want to do, big lesson, is you don't want to do all of them at the same time. That was a big mistake that I didn't realize a lot of people were going to make when in 2011 I started speaking, and I came up with a title for a topic called How to Be Everywhere. And the reason why I share that is because a conference owner asked me, Pat, how are you everywhere? Can you talk about how you're everywhere? And I was like, sure, I'll teach how to be everywhere. I wasn't actually everywhere, but it seemed like I was because I was showing up for people who like to read on my blog. I was showing up for people who like to listen on my podcast. I was showing up for people who like to watch on my YouTube channel, and I was able to balance and manage all that, in addition to having also social media presence and showing up and interacting with people. Mind you, I did work very, very hard trying to leave no handshake unshook, and I replied to every single comment on my blog, every single message on the YouTube channel at the start. Now that's quite impossible for me to do. If I were to do that, including social media and the emails that I have, I mean, I would not sleep a wink 24/7 for years to be able to do that. So I've hired a team to help me with the email. I've gotten really honed in on what my priorities are, and I figured out what my main platforms are, and I've tried to build a machine out of the things that we've talked about earlier in the week. For instance, the podcast. The podcast now, we're already recorded 3 months ahead of schedule. We batch process those things, and my team handles most of the process. On YouTube, I have an editor now, and I work really hard to try and streamline that process, starting with the title, then focusing on the thumbnail, then creating the content that's going to help transform a person, and that's the approach there on YouTube, like I mentioned on Tuesday. And in the world of blogging, we have actually reduced the number of blogging that we've done on the blog because we found that we just got better results with other platforms. However, that's not to say blogging is dead. It's not. It's definitely not dead. And there is definitely a use case for having that be a primary platform for you. Social media, however, is a thing that sort of sits on top of all that, which is, I think, really interesting. It almost is a way for you to relay the stuff that you have on your main platform to others who may be following you, who might not be necessarily subscribed or might not just check your website every single day. It's a great way to remind people of what's coming out. It's also, in my opinion, the best way to quickly build a relationship with somebody. I'll go over some strategies that I use today on using social media as a way to connect with people. And that's really what I love about it the most, right? Putting social into social media, both in a group sense, like in Facebook groups and forums and things like that, but also in a more private sense, like in direct messages, right? Like you slide into the DMs and great things happen there for sure. Margaret here says, you can't do everything at once. I've tried, it doesn't work. No, you can't do everything at once. You can eventually get to the point where you have your hand in things, and you can have mechanisms or human beings and team members who are there with you to help keep those things going. But if you try to divide all your energy across all these different things all at the same time, it's not going to work out for you. Very similar thought when it comes to choosing social media platforms and picking them. If you try to, get your Instagram account, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all those things going at the same time, you're not going to give any of them a chance for you to perform well on. However, you kind of want to nab your social media account profiles on those platforms, and that's essentially what I did. I started on Twitter in 2008. This was sort of my first, I had Facebook back in college, and that still remains today for me a primary platform for just friends and family mostly. I do interact with people there, and I do have a Facebook group, a Facebook community, smartpassiveincome.com/community if you want to check it out. There's about 50,000 people in there, which is crazy. However, it's definitely a lot of conversation. And in fact, I want to give a big shout out to our community manager there, Brendan Hufford, who has been doing an amazing job just keeping the conversation going there and having it be as spam free as possible and managing the community and filtering people as they come in. And that's a really important thing to do in a group. You want to make sure that it doesn't spoil because of a couple bad apples, and having people who are in there who are part of your community step up and sort of become moderators, become admins, really empowers them, makes them feel great. And again, this is just part of the strategy here. We have a lot to talk about today. We got 165 people in the room right now, which is really fantastic. So I'm going to get started here very soon, but just make my way here through the questions. And by the way, if you happen to be here right now, hit me up with a thumbs up. That would go a very long way. Thank you so much. Bruh to you. Let's see. Andrew says, is it expensive to hire a team? It can be. It is quite expensive for me right now. However, I'm getting my time back, and that's what I'm paying for essentially. I'm also paying for skill. I'm paying for talent. I'm paying for peace of mind. But you don't need to start out crazy. And in fact, you may just benefit from a single hire to help you with some stuff, to take some stuff off your plate. There's a book I'd recommend for sure called Virtual Freedom by my good friend Chris Ducker, one of my best friends, in fact. I don't know if he's in the house right now watching, but if you are, buddy, thank you so much for writing that book, because it was very helpful. In fact, Chris spent years trying to get me and convince me to hire somebody, and it took him years to do it ever since we met each other in 2010, and it took me 4 years to finally get up and hire somebody to help me with my podcast editing and to publish my blog posts. And since then, I've just been going crazy hiring other people. There's also the idea of hiring virtual assistants, VAs that might perhaps live overseas. In fact, we talked, I think, about this yesterday, and or it might have been in office hours. I can't remember exactly. All these live streams and these webinars and these Zoom calls are just sort of mashed into one. But we did a 2-hour office hour yesterday. I answered 91 questions, which was a record in 2 hours. And my students got sent off and got a lot of value out of that. So if you sign up for any of my courses, you get access to me for 2 hours a week to just get all your questions answered. But anyway, we talked about Filipino VAs. Filipino VAs are very popular because, number one, they speak great English. Number two, the economies of scale, it's crazy. I paid $650 a month for a developer for about a year and a half's time at one point to hire a person in the Philippines. And this was a 40-hour a week thing. 40 hours a week for $650 a month. First of all, I thought that was like robbery. I thought that was stealing, like me stealing from him. And I even, in fact, I'm saying in fact a lot today. I even offered to pay him more money, and he said no. He said no because in the Philippines, just the way the culture is, if you make a lot of money in the Philippines, you have a target on your back, and that's kind of unfortunate. But it was fortunate for the purposes of, having somebody who could help me with my business for not that much money, especially when I was just starting out. And the only thing about working with VAs in the Philippines or anywhere else, for example. And another reason why Filipino VAs, I'm half Filipino myself, it's very much in their culture, our culture, to be very loyal people. You get your job done, you get it done well, on time, and you don't overstep your boss, but you do your work and you get it done, and you're very friendly. And so that's part of the culture, and that's why a lot of people love to hire Filipino VAs. However, a couple of downsides. Internet connection, not always the best, but number two, they won't go beyond what you tell them what to do. You have to train them, but then they won't go beyond that. And I was looking for people and team members who would step up and sort of own pieces of the business and almost make it their own and be responsible for things and try to find ways outside of what I tell them to improve it. And this is why I have a team that's more local and remote in the US now. Not local like San Diego, but I have people in Chicago, in Sacramento, in Minnesota, in Columbus, and they all work remotely for me, and it's the best thing ever. So it is expensive now, but it doesn't have to be, and I would recommend starting just with a person who you think can take most of the stuff that you do repetitively that you don't want to do to open up more time for you. I would start there. And again, Chris Tucker's book, Virtual Freedom, was amazing. Question, how can one do all of that when you are still working a full-time job? Is it possible? No, it's not. I'm just going to tell you straight up. Unless you pay a lot of money to hire a team member to do it for you and almost own all of that, I would recommend starting with one platform, like we talked about this week, either YouTube or podcast or blog as your main content hub. Start with one of those, and then have one or two social media channels to really focus on. And although you're leaving people out, maybe you're not choosing to do LinkedIn, you're not choosing to do Pinterest, but you really want to focus on Twitter and Instagram. That's sort of my play. And because that's where I like to play. That's where I prefer to be. That's where I like to hang out. And I see social media as a way not just to also just drive more traffic to things and let people know about what I have going on. It's actually less about that for me. It's more about, hey, what are you doing? Like, what could I do to help you? And tell me more about what I could do to better serve you. And also, here's a little bit more about my life and the things that I have going on and what I'm interested in. And it's a way for me to connect with people almost like a friend to a friend versus like creator to followers. Aaron says, I wanted to be everywhere, but I focus on a small few that I can get better control over. I love that. Tiffany says, I'm a big fan of truly building 1 to 2 platforms up, business at a time, and then moving to others. I love that too. You might find that you might build 1 or 2 up and you're just like, hey, I like it here. There's no reason for me to move elsewhere. Mark says, as an artist, I quit Instagram because I was hacked twice. Lost everything, restarted, but I'm wary of the platform suggestions. Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that, but I think it's, whoa, what's going on there? By the way, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. And where are we going today? We are going to Brisbane, not Brisbane, I found out. It's also Melbourne, not Melbourne. I'm talking about Australia, one of my favorite countries and continents, and one of my favorite cities. I have family there. They're amazing. The beach, the man-made beach in the boardwalk area. Wow, just awesome. Queen Street, love it. Anyway, so sorry to hear you've been hacked, Mark, and that's just crazy. And that's one of the drawbacks of social media. It's like you're playing in somebody else's sandbox. And this is why I think it's important to have a platform that you can control, like your website or an email list. And in fact, this is what I think his name's Toby, one of the founders of Shopify. He once tweeted that the only 2 places on the internet that you can have total control over are your website and your email list, which is why those things are really important, even if they're not your main platform. But you have to build an email list. And this is why even if you lose all your followers on Instagram, or even if you lose all your followers on, one of these platforms, or the algorithms start getting in the way, right? Which is what has been happening in social media lately. Well, then at least you have your email list, and you also have a website that you can control. And even if a website gets hacked, like mine did in 2013, you still have your email list. In fact, my email list saved me. My email list and an email list, I feel, is a major insurance policy when it comes to building businesses. Kathy says, can you expand on batch processing? Yeah, batch processing. And again, we're going to get started really quickly here, making social media work for you. We're going to talk about that in just a moment and kind of go high level, social media, what to do, what not to do, platforms, etc. Batch processing. So for example, instead of recording 1 podcast episode every week so I can keep up with my schedule, I might record 3 on Tuesday and then take a couple weeks off, and then 3 on the next Tuesday that comes up and take a couple weeks off. Or if I'm feeling ambitious, I might do 4 this week and then 4 next week, and then I can sit pretty for a month and then get ahead on my schedule and then have more time to then market those shows. That's a big thing that podcasters miss out on is having time to market their show, which is unfortunate because podcasters are creating great content, and not just podcasters, people doing video, people doing blog posts, even social media you can batch process, right? You can use tools like Later. Have you seen later.com? I think it's later.com. They are a tool that allow you to schedule Instagram posts ahead of time. And I've used that tool for a while, and it's great. I've stopped using it for a while just because I've been focused so much on all this stuff in the live stream for you lately, but I might go back to it. Later is a great tool, and there's a lot of tools out there that can help you manage and schedule. Meet Edgar is another one that's very great. And even on YouTube, you can upload videos ahead of time and schedule them. On a podcast host like Buzzsprout, you can do the same thing, and you can do a lot of the creation in a large chunk of time for multiple pieces, and then you can work on the marketing and the editing and the publishing and the relationship building after, and that's just a productivity strategy. Andrew, love this. Just found Pat Flynn yesterday. Cool, love it. And yes, you did correct yourself, 2 N's. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So going back to what I was saying earlier, I taught this strategy in 2011 when I was speaking on stage about being everywhere, and unfortunately, I didn't really drive home the idea that you can't be everywhere at the same time up front. You have to start with one and focus on that, master it, be efficient with it, optimize it, and then if you choose to and if you want to, you can expand outward of that and move on to another platform after. And you can have those mechanisms and automations and systems working for you from where you came from or where you were. And so that's what I did on the blog. And then 2009, I started my YouTube channel. 2010, I started my podcast. 2011, I started speaking. 2013, I started writing books. 2016, I started Will It Fly, another book. And finally, 2017, I created my first online course. And so that's been the sequence. But when it comes to social media, 1 or 2 to start out with is really the best thing. Xavier says, I'm late. You're all good. You're all good. All right. And final question from Dawn before we get into the content here. How many times can you plug your content? 1 to 4? It really depends on the social media platform, right? Like I found that Instagram is a little bit more like if you were to promote it even twice in one day, especially on your regular feed, your stories, you have a little bit more room to work with. But on your regular Instagram feed, if you post a promotional piece to the same thing more than once, people are not going to be happy about that, right? That's not why they're following you necessarily. I think it depends, of course, on the audience and their expectations and the rhythm and the cadence that you have had them to expect from you. But on Instagram, it's far less. Facebook, it's kind of the same gist. But then on Twitter, it can be like literally 3 or 4 times a day. And on LinkedIn, I think it's more like 2. It's a little bit more professional and business-like there, so people expect a little bit more promotion on that platform. And again, it depends. So let's get started. Let's dive into this. Let me take another sip of coffee here. Let me put on like a quick little instrumental, and let me know in the chat perhaps what your biggest questions are about social media, and we can see if we can answer those along the way here. So why don't you do that for me right now, whilst hitting the thumbs up button? That'd be really great. And again, thank you for being here today. Team Flynn for the win. You're amazing. Let me have some coffee. You tell me what you want to know about social media, and hopefully we can answer some of those questions here today. Thank you for being here, seriously. Love me some coffee. Thank you for the super chat, David. Super chats have been a little light lately, which is totally okay. And the reason is because we have been definitely diving deep into a lot of these different things this week, and that's okay. I think there perhaps were some super chats that I may have missed yesterday, which I want to just let me get into YouTube right now to give a shout out to those people that I may have missed. So I apologize about that. But thank you, David, for that. You are amazing. Let's see, the latest super chats we got in yesterday from... Oops, I totally just lost my... There we go. Wait, what day is today? 28th, 29th? So we got Martin... This is for the inspiration over the past 71 days. Podcast growth is amazing. YouTube growth is amazing. And due to your input, launched my first course today, Martin. That's awesome. Congratulations. Hey, Archer says, sorry I'm late. SEO training for the win. That's great. Remy says, hi, can you check for me a short video I made for the US market. It would mean a lot to me and my blog and business. Yeah, this weekend, tomorrow, we're going to be doing some reviews about websites, and I'd like to go into some videos as well, Remy. So if you can come back on the weekend, that'd be great. At Reef says, hello, great videos. Always says at Reef. Cool. Thank you so much for the super chats yesterday. Awesome. Good questions. Thank you for those coming in. And let's get started here. So this is likely the point at which in the video I might cut to when we do the replay, because I want to make it very valuable for those who are watching the replay as well. So again, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you. If you want to come in tomorrow and get some reviews and watch people get reviewed on their videos and their websites, you can come in tomorrow in case you have to leave early. That's why I'm sharing this right now, patflynn.com/theincomestream. And Sunday, we're going to do another Sell Me Sunday, where I'm going to be reviewing sales pages. I'm going to purchase something from somebody who has, who I feel has one of the top sales pages for something. So hopefully I'll have a mechanism to collect those things much easier than last week. So anyway, okay, let's go. Let's get into this. A little clap for the audio. Thank you. Hey, what's up? My name is Pat Flynn, and in this video, we're going to talk about social media. In fact, making social media work for you. You know, social media is something that you've likely been a part of, or you are about to get into it. You're a little intimidated. You're a little bit scared about what's about to happen. How do we get in there? How do we get into it? What are the best practices? All those sorts of things. That and more today in this video. But let me tell you a quick history about my work in social media. Social media is not the thing that I'm like the best at. Just to let you know, there's a lot of people who are experts and even individual experts on these individual platforms. And next week here on the income stream, we're going to talk about some of those things, like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn more specifically. But today is more of a higher level view of these platforms and how to use them, how to integrate them into your business, how to get started with them, pros, cons, mistakes, best practices, and more. So thank you again for being here today. Now, what's the big deal about social media anyway? I mean, why should we care? I know a lot of people, especially those who are in the older generation, who are like, do I really need to be on Instagram? Do I really need to be on Twitter? The fact is, like, no, you don't necessarily have to be there. And wow, thank you for the super chat. Just to end the month strong. Who's with me? Thank you so much. What is your why? By the way, if you're watching the replay, this is a super chat coming in from the live stream. This is actually filmed live, and you can join me live every morning at 8 a.m. Pacific in case you are interested. But let's keep going with this. If you are interested in social media, you might be going like, what's the big deal? Like, you've heard about this. How is it actually going to help me? And there's a lot of different takes on this, right? A lot of people go and will answer, well, you know what? It's the best way to bring traffic to your website. Can it bring traffic to your website or to your podcast or to your videos or to your blog? Yeah, it can definitely do that. But I think if that's the primary thing that you're getting onto social media for, you're not going to have a great experience. It's almost just going to feel like a bucket that you just start putting things into, and it's not going to actually work out for you very well. And in fact, if that's all you're posting on social media, it's not being very social. It's more like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And that's not what we want to do when it comes to social media. It's not, I mean, yes, there is me in social media, but the social part gets lost often, right? And yes, there's an I in social as well, and another I in media. Anyway, that didn't work out like I wanted it to, but it doesn't always work out. But what doesn't work on social media is if you just use it as a place to just like display everything else you're doing elsewhere. It's not going to work out very well for you. It can, should you build relationships with people there, help you massively, especially with the viral quality of social media. People being able to, on Twitter, retweet things, on Instagram, to be able to repost something or to reshare something. On TikTok, the ability for you to be seen by perhaps tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, based on probably one of the best algorithms on a social media platform that there is, TikTok. And then there's Facebook for the connection and all these other things. Like, there's so many possibilities when it comes to it. However, it's a little bit intimidating, and there's so many options out there. What are we going to do? Where do we start? How do we even go about this? Let's talk about it today. That's why we're here. Now, another reason to get on social media, and probably the primary reason that I am on social media, is to, number one, see what other people are doing and try to get interested in what they're up to. Because social media is a great platform to understand what other people in your space have going on, so you can just be tuned into that. Thank you, Remodel Media. I appreciate that. No need for the super chats, by the way, but they are being donated this month to Project Cure, which is helping people in the medical field. So thank you so much for those super chats. Cool to see them in the videos here. And again, if you're watching the replay, don't worry, you don't have to pay anything ever. But that's just how great the community is, right? And that's part of what social media is about. It's the community that you're building. See that transition? And the idea of connecting with people. And I like to approach social media in a way where I can learn more about my audience. I can learn more about the other industry leaders in this space so I can get connected to them, right? James Schramko, one of my mentors, once said, you have to stop trying to be so interesting and start getting interested, right? Let me repeat that. You have to try and stop being so interesting and start getting interested in what other people are doing. And there's a classic story here that I want to talk about that relates to this. It's not necessarily about social media, but it just shares the impact of what it's like to get interested in other people. And I want to talk about Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss, as you might know, is the author of The 4-Hour Workweek, a book that was very inspirational to me back in 2008 when I got laid off from my architecture industry. It is the reason why my website is Smart Passive Income, because it talks about automation and the idea of building automations and tools and hiring people to remove yourself from that work after the initial push to then put your time and effort elsewhere, whether it's personal or business, right? So Tim Ferriss, the way he got famous, the way that his book 4-Hour Workweek got so big was he went to conferences. And I know at this current moment in time, we can't go to conferences, but you can still make connections, and social media is a great place for that. But he went to conferences, and instead of saying, hey guys, look at me, I got this book called The 4-Hour Workweek, what do you think? He went into conversations and just tried to get so interested in what other people were doing. In fact, he did this, and I heard this from several people who were at these conferences that he was at, and he said, Tim just was so interested in what I was doing, you can't help but be curious about what this person is up to. And because he was just really interested and was asking great questions, you ask great questions back. And of course, when a person asks, well, hey Tim, like, tell me a little bit about yourself, what are you up to? You've earned the right now. You've earned the right now to share your stuff. You got to earn the right to share your stuff, right? You got to earn the right to share your stuff. And the reason why you should care about social media is because it's a great place for you to make actual real life connections with people. And I know when social media came out, it was supposed to like be this thing where we can connect the world more together, and it can help you do that. However, with how easy it is to just go, me, look at me, hey guys, look at me, check me out, it's actually disconnected us more. And this is why people are craving in-person stuff so much, outside of even the pandemic, making and like exponentially growing that need even more. So the more you can show up, the more you can build relationships, the more you can get interested in what other people are doing, the more likely it is for you to succeed on social media. And Andrew here saying, brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you. Sherry saying, happy to be here. Sorry I'm late. Missed yesterday doing legal work. No worry. That stuff is obviously very important. Cool. So let's keep going here. When it comes to social media, here is the mental mindset I would love for you to adopt. And again, I'm not an expert, but this is what works on social media. Because let me tell you what doesn't work. Social media is like a giant party. Imagine a giant party, like analogous to like a high school gym, right? Like imagine a giant gym and there's all these people on social media in that gym. Are people in a perfect array spaced out? Yeah, maybe 6 feet from each other, but you know, people are in groups, right? People are in groups having conversations. You got the jocks over there, you got the nerds over here, you got the ROTC people over here, and like friends, like the cool people over here, and the band nerds, that's where I'm at, or over here. And we're all having these different conversations. And even within those little niches, like in the band space, there's people talking about the field show that's happening tomorrow. There's another group of people who are talking about Magic the Gathering. Again, that's where I was within the band group, and all those sorts of things, right? There's little cliques, there's little groups of people in these parties, right? You coming into social media, bad example would be, do you come into this gym, you bust open the doors, you go, all right, and you go to the group, any group, and you go, hey, my name's Pat Flynn, do you want to buy my Tupperware? Hey, I know you don't know me, but I just wrote this amazing blog post that I think you should check out. It's totally relevant for you, I promise. What's that going to be like in real life if you were to do that? These people are going to be like, who, okay, I'm going to get back to my... Who's that guy? That guy is crazy. Tupperware at a gym party? Why? Right? So we don't want that. And that's too often what people are doing on social media. Look at me, look at me. You haven't even gotten to know people. And again, you have to earn the right to share your stuff, if that's indeed why you want to do it. If you do it right, people will be just curious about your stuff in general and want to hear from you because you've earned the right to do that. So we don't want to do that. Make It Blue says, I was in the corner alone. Hey, you're always welcome to come into my corner. We can hang out. I appreciate you. And plus, you have Disney in your avatar name. I think we had a lot to talk about. And that's one of the things that you need to focus on. The connections, right? So, hey, if you were in the corner standing alone, you know, I might come to you and go, hey, Disney adventure. Like, tell me about your best and most favorite Disney adventure. And we could start chatting, right? And then you might go, well, tell me about you and what you do. And now we can bring both of us together and we can have a conversation and I can get to know you. And if you happen to be somebody in the niche that I want to serve, then I can learn more about you and I can do whatever I can to help you. And of course, in turn, you can get interested knowing that, hey, there's a real person out there who actually cares, right? Because that's what people want. People want attention. When other people come in and try to fight for that attention, people get very defensive, right? This is why when you go into groups in social media, especially like Facebook groups, and you start promoting stuff, well, guess who's trying to get the attention? You haven't earned it yet. You immediately default to spam, right? You get kicked out, people ignore you. That's not what you want to do. If you can go in and provide value, much like my good friend Brian Harris did in a Facebook group one day, he started his entire business as a result of getting so engaged in a Facebook group about business. He was just starting out. He had a superpower about creating videos to help promote products. And so he went into a Facebook group to teach people the things he was learning, the data that he was collecting, not ever asking for anything in return. Just offering value, going, hey, I know you guys do sales videos. I found something out recently, and here's how I structured a video that worked really well. It gained us 150% in additional sales, and I just wanted to pass it on to you here because I think it would be helpful. Comments, wow, awesome. Thank you so much for that value. This is exactly what I needed. Brian, like, this is so cool. Do you do video for a living? Yeah. I am at videofruit.com. Okay, cool. That's awesome. And then follow up the next couple days. Hey guys, I did another video structured a little bit differently. You might remember in this post here, I talked about this. Like, I just wanted to share this with you here. Brian is not the group leader. He's just a member of the group. But now he's being seen as an authority in informational videos about selling product. And then later on, he said, hey guys, I have this other thing going. I'm actually working on a project. And for anybody interested in learning more about this project, I might end up selling it one day. Let me know in the comment section below. Yes, me, like, reach out. Like, I'd love, and he was able to pre-launch and validate a product idea that he was doing about videos. And he was able to get, I think, 30 or 40 customers within that group, rightfully and justifiably. Anyway, he earned the right to do that, right? So that's Brian Harris from Video Fruit, who I absolutely adore. He's a very smart man. And he did social media the right way. The right way to do social media, again, we're talking about the mental mindset for social success, is to go into this giant party like we talked about of social media, and you find these groups, and you come in and you just listen. And whenever somebody might need help with something or says something interesting, you comment about that. You don't talk about yourself yet. You might perhaps talk about your own personal experience. Oh yeah, hey, I tried that once. Like, this is what I think of that, or how that worked out for me. What worked out for you guys? And again, a conversation, social aspect, right? This is the social and social media, right? Rafal, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you, my friend. The Aquanut says, how do you get to know people when your main business is taking up all your time? I work from 6 a.m., break for dinner, and back to work till 10 p.m. So this is a great question. So we'll be talking a little bit more about how to actually do this, Rafal. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. We'll be talking about best practices. And part of best practices is finding time to do this, right? So I have all these things going on. I own 4 different businesses. I'm on all these different platforms. I also have a family to take care of. Where do I even find the time to do social media? Stick around because I'm going to share with you exactly how I do that, how I still show up. Now, at this point in my business, I've grown so big, which is great. It's a great problem to have. The fact that I can't reply to every single comment anymore, but still showing up for people, even though you can't show up for everybody, is really important. And that was a big mental mindset success thing that I had to understand too, that eventually it came to the point where if I were to reply to every single comment, it's just not going to work anymore. And I know, and you know, that bigger A-listers, Elon Musk, Gary Vaynerchuk, like, they can't reply to every single comment, but they do show up and you see them show up. And especially with the way the algorithms work, like let's say, for example, on Instagram, you reply to a few comments on your latest post, your comments will always be the ones that rise up to the top because you're the creator of that post. And so people who come in later see that you are actually indeed active. You're not active in replying to every single comment. If you're at the start of your journey, then I would try to do that, but you can't anymore eventually. And you are still able to show up. You're still able to be a part of the community. You're not just like on the mountaintop speaking down to everybody, but you're within the crowd, talking, helping out, being a part of the conversation too. And that's really important. Cool. I love what Susanna here says. In retail, we say make a friend, earn a customer. But you have to be genuine about it too, right? Like if you were to walk into Gap, and I know this happens at the Gap, no offense, Gap. I know this is your protocol and this is what you do. But you walk in there and they're like, they just try to be your friend, but you know there's like something that you know they have an agenda, right? And that's the other thing. You have to dig your well before you're thirsty. You have to dig your well before you're thirsty. You have to do the work to get connected with people, to actually want to be friends with them, to actually want to understand what they're going through, to actually want to have them get to be interested in you as a byproduct of that, before you go and start actually promoting something or asking for something in return. If you were to start with that, that means you're digging your well and you're already thirsty, and that's not going to work, right? Because it takes some time to dig your well. So we need to spend the time to dig our well now, which is why we need to spend the time to go out there, get interested, enjoy these conversations, follow hashtags that matter and relate to your particular audience, find conversations in groups that relate to your particular crowd so that you can understand more about what they might need help with, so you can engage with them in conversation, so you can step up and show yourself as an authority, so you can test different ideas and thoughts and actually show that you're providing value before you earn the right to then ask for things, right? That's how I approach social media. Right? I like this from April. Don't make a friend, right? It's sort of like making a friend, almost like Weird Science. Remember that? Was that an 80s or 90s show, Weird Science? They like used computers to make this girl. And anyway, befriend people, because you can't make someone be your friend. They will feel it if you are not genuine. There you go. Befriend people. I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you so much. Dig your well before you're thirsty. Truth. I always say, think with hunger, not with thirst. Thank you so much. Cool. Cool. Let's keep going here. So, choosing the right platform, and how many should we be on? It is my stance that you should start with one. Always start with one. I would still, if you have a business and it has a particular brand and you want to make sure you sort of reserve, if you will, those brand names on those platforms, then I would say, okay, you can get your accounts for each of them should you choose to do that. But I would focus on being completely active as much as possible on one to start out with, maybe two. But I would not go more than two, because just honestly, after two, it just starts to become a little bit cumbersome. Now, you see people like Gary Vee, who is super active on Twitter, who is super active on TikTok, who is showing up with 14 to 20 posts a day on Instagram. And you go, oh my gosh, I gotta be like Gary Vee. Gary Vee's success, I wanna be successful, I have to do just like him. Don't do that. And I'm not saying Gary's not doing it the right way. He's doing it the right way for him, but guess what? He also has resources to help him do that. I went to VaynerMedia last year when Caleb and I were launching the Switch Pod because we were doing a media tour, and we stepped into his offices. He wasn't there, but we met his team. And guess what? I found right outside of his office 20 people on 20 different computers, all responsible for creating social media content for Gary Vee on these different platforms, for editing videos that pop up there, for creating little illustrations and little cartoons and just Instagram and stories and formatting them for all the right things. This is how he's able to do that. Do we have those kinds of resources? No way. If we tried to do what we see Gary Vee does, then we're trying to do 20 people's jobs and we're going to burn out, or we're going to feel inadequate. And you just can't do that, right? Gary has a team of like 23 people. And yes, Gary Vee is also a well-oiled machine and he swears a lot, but that's okay. That's him. He does it his way. You need to find out what works for you. So don't feel like you have to be on all the different platforms and with each of these platforms show up in 14 posts a day. Sometimes it's more thoughtful posts and a little bit of interaction that can take you much further, right? So I would recommend being on one to start out with, master it, get to know people there. Yes, you are leaving people out that you cannot connect with by not being on LinkedIn. I've specifically chosen not to be on LinkedIn. And it's no, not FOMO. I don't believe in FOMO, fear of missing out, because now I am either feeling bad for a decision that I made or feeling left out and always taking my energy away from the thing that I actually chose to do. And no, it's not JOMO either. Have you heard of JOMO? Joy of missing out? I think that's just a lie. Like, yeah, I'm so happy that my friends are at a party without me. I'm okay with that. No, you're not. Here's how to reframe that. JOOO. JOOO. The joy of opting out. Saying, no, I choose to not do that because I've chosen to do something else. The joy of opting out. And I don't know a great, like, Joe to the third power. I know Jomo and FOMO sound really good, but like like I don't know if that's going to work out as well. So if you can help me, the joy of opting out. The opting out part is really important. It's like, no, I'm not going to go to my friend's party because I've focused on this priority here, right? When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Or where you're saying no to something, you're saying yes to something else. So J-O-O-O. 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 Cool. Now, when it comes to, I like this from Chris, accurate. Bruh. Appreciate you. Thank you. Somebody's asking about my team. Now, my team, I have about 6 people on my team, but they all focus on different parts of the business. I am the only one in my social media. I still believe, and this is just me, I know a lot of people who have team members who show up on social media, whether they post on their behalf as if they were them, which I don't believe in, or you show up and you still say your name and it's not the founder or creator, but you still show up as a person. I think that's okay. That's what I do on email. Jess, my executive assistant, answers on my answers not as me, but for me. And she shows up and people have gotten to know Jess, which is really cool. Same thing on social media. You can have that as well. And I love that when I see customer service and I see different names show up, it means that there's a team there for the purpose of taking care of me. And in the world of customer service, being on social media is really important, right? And expectation is really important. Actually, in fact, one of my favorite Twitter accounts is KLM. I don't know if you've seen KLM, but they do something really interesting on their Twitter that I think is very, very worth looking and paying attention to. This is KLM here, right? So we can't wait to see you again. Okay, so it's a little bit different, but KLM is really great at responding. And when we could fly, what they used to do is they would put, we reply within 10 minutes, and that would change. It would be just in their cover art for Twitter. It would say, expect a reply in 29 minutes and 20 minutes and 50 minutes. And yes, it's a giant company. They have a giant team. They have algorithms to know how long it would take them to answer questions. However, I once tested this. It said, I think 29 minutes. And I replied and I said, hey, KLM, thinking of going to the Netherlands. Where do you think I should check out? And I just wanted to see if they would reply. And they did. This giant company with 2.3 million followers was able to reply within not 29 minutes. That was the expectation. It was within 10 minutes. So they blew my expectations away. And then I actually had a conversation with somebody on their end. I don't remember the person's name, but they were like, oh yeah, you should probably check out these places. And I was like, cool, thank you. How are you able to reply so quickly? And they're just like, we care about our people. We know that this can mean the difference between you choosing us versus somebody else. So we appreciate you for reaching out. And I was like, boom, blown away. Like a giant company is able to manage this. If that's the case, then a single individual who is running a solopreneur business or just has a small team can manage that too. And I thought that was really, really cool. So let's see, where did I go? Okay, we're here. And so in terms of which platform to choose, again, next week we're gonna go deep diving into individual platforms, but I think different platforms have definitely their different strengths. Like Instagram definitely obviously is great if you have good photography, if you wanna make a deep connection with people. Storytelling, if you're a great storyteller, stories on Instagram is really, really key. Very much like how Snapchat once was, and Snapchat I know has been struggling ever since Instagram sort of jacked the Snapchat story feature, made it stories on their own. But hey, that's what's happening. YouTube is doing the same thing too. YouTube has stories, which I haven't taken advantage of yet, but I don't know, it's really interesting. Anyway, Instagram for storytelling, for I think the deepest connections that you can make on a social media platform, because it feels very personable. This is what I like about Instagram. It's not like Facebook where it's just a news feed with a whole bunch of stuff, including negative and politics and religion and whatnot. But I think it's a great place. However, you got to be careful, because a lot of times Instagram is coming across as, well, it's just somebody's highlight reel. And that's essentially what it is, right? And so you can be very depressed on any of these platforms by following people and going like, hey, why not me? And that's something you have to realize too as a follower on different platforms, is that you're only seeing what people curate for you. And on Instagram specifically, I know a lot of people have become very depressed by following people and going, oh, like, look at their perfect life. Look at those photos. They're amazing. Like they're much better than me. Look at that mom. She's just so well put together. She's a mom and an entrepreneur. Like, how is that even possible? And you got to realize that they're only showing you, not that there aren't moms that are like that, but you're only seeing people's highlight reels. And if you compare your entire life to somebody's highlight reel, it could make you leaving like feeling like you're not doing everything that you can. And we don't want that to happen either. So I would make sure to just keep in mind, like, you are following another person's highlight reel, but I like to follow other people for inspiration. I like to follow people for best practices. I like to get to know people a little bit more so that I can follow up with them later and see how I might be able to help. That's why I follow these industry leaders, not because I am getting inspired by them, although I am, but I want to know what they're up to so that I can see how I might be able to help them further down the road, right? If I see that, Ramit might be traveling somewhere where I've been before that he hasn't been, Ramit Sethi, I might go, hey, man, I see you're going to Australia. I have family in Brisbane. If you need anything, like, let me know. I know some spots. And Ramit being a traveler and liking to know where the places are to go, like, that would be valuable for him, right? Like, that's how I use social media. I use it to connect. I use it to build relationships. I also use, and we'll talk about best practices for social media. Essentially, we're sort of just bleeding into that right now. But my favorite thing to do on social media is see what a person's up to and then connect with them in a direct message. And no, that's not necessarily scalable, but also best practice, and this is what I do. I schedule time in my calendar to be on social media. The trouble with social media is that things are happening all the time, and you also have this fear of missing out on conversations, right? And then you go back to older conversations, and all of a sudden you're lost in an hour and a half's time on Facebook when you should have been doing something else. So it's very, very simple and easy, and this is, like, you got to realize, these platforms were built to hook you in, to keep you in. And when you have other things to do and other responsibilities and priorities, you got to manage that. And so your time on these platforms should be controlled. There are tools out there that can help you actually define how much time that you can spend. I think there's one called, I don't know, chat, let me know if you remember, but there's one that you can say, like, hey, I only want to spend 30 minutes on this platform, and if I try to go over, like, don't let me open this platform. I can't remember what the name is of that platform right now, or that tool, but let me know if you remember in the chat, and I'll pass it on to those who are watching the replay right now. And those of you in the replay, you might know. By the way, if you're watching the replay right now, I'd love to know that you're doing that. Let me know in the chat below. I'll heart your comment. I'll say hello. Thank you. Yeah, I can't remember what that tool is, but anyway, you got to control it. And the way that I control it is I just have in my calendar blocks of time. Now, it's not blocks of time for 40 minutes on, Instagram and 20 minutes here, but usually it's just like 15 minutes here twice a day. And what I do is I do a blitz. So on that 15 minutes, I'll usually start by posting something that doesn't promote something, because those promotional items are actually automated. They're done through CoSchedule. I use a tool called CoSchedule to promote and publish podcast episode / blog posts. And what that does is I can set ahead of time, and I had my team do this. We write out those social messages before the thing's even published. And CoSchedule interacts perfectly with Instagram, even LinkedIn, and you can connect it so that when it's published, you can say, okay, at the time of publishing, post this message. And again, you pre-wrote that. Then 1 day later, post the same message to promote that thing. Then 3 days later, promote the same thing to these platforms, or multiple times a day on these different platforms. And that's how I automate the sort of blasting out of the things that I'm working on ahead of time. I batch process those things along with it. But time block, is that what it's called? Cool. But, sorry, just lost my train of thought there. When it comes to social media, you got to block out your time, right? And I just go in and I start with leaving a post to try and get interaction and see who's up there with me now. I'll often ask a question. Asking questions are really good, and including a photo or including some sort of something that moves, that takes up more space. That's what I've learned works really well on Twitter. Using a GIF works really well because it just stands out in the feed. So why wouldn't you maximize your real estate there? On Instagram, I found that even on your feed, adding a little bit more of a vertical image versus a square takes up more space. It allows people to see more stuff, and I love that too. But after that, then I'll just go a blitz. Hey, whoever has replied or interacted with me in the late, recently, I'm just going to go in and do a blitz, and I try to get to like maybe 30 or 40 just quick replies, hellos, quick video responses to people within a 15-minute time period. Then I'll do that again. On Friday, however, I have scheduled a 30-minute block of time in my calendar because it's a little bit lighter day. When I'm on my walk with my dog on Friday, I have a 30-minute block to legit just get on video. On Instagram, typically, because it's just easiest. You can do this on Twitter as well. But again, I just pick those two platforms, are the only two platforms that I'm truly active on right now. Excuse me. And I direct message people who have recently replied on a comment, and I just say thanks. I just ask them like how they're doing, and I just show up for them. And I'll tell you, those get like a 90% reply rate. People are blown away. Absolutely blown away. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you spent the time to reach out and you did it with video. Like, Pat, I see you. Like, thank you so much. I'm a big fan. And even if they haven't been like a part of my brand for a while, they're very impressed, right? And they're not getting, like, your people are not getting that attention ever from anybody. It's a very simple thing to do. It's my favorite thing to do on social media platforms is, number one, engage with people who I know are interested in my stuff. And number two, follow up with them and have a conversation with them. And I time block that on my Fridays so that I can just get that all done. And no, I can't do that to everybody, but I do it for a few people, and those people are very impressed, and I just have that continued throughout the year. And that works really well too. And yes, that's good. You're human. Indeed, I am. Because I can't get to everybody. If I were to try to do that, I would get to nobody because I wouldn't be around anymore, right? If that makes sense. What was that for blog post automatic posts? Co-schedule. I don't know why I said SCO. It's coschedule.com. smartpassiveincome.com/co-schedule, if that makes sense. Coach Deb says, nothing like listening to Pat and Jerome Powell from TED Fed both live at the same time, getting my social fix at the same time. Yep, we really can be in multiple places at once. Thanks, Coach Deb. How are you doing that? I don't know. Me in one ear and Jerome in the other. I don't know. Dogs are most important. Yes. Cool. What is your wife says? Why your logo should be your photo avatar on your YouTube account? #bra. Yeah, I mean, you should have something other than the sort of regular profile. That's another thing, right? Like, however people find you, you want that branding and messaging to be sort of best practice, consistent throughout, right? So your at least messaging and your cover art, and just if people can find you in these different places, having the same kind of feel, when you're all in all those places helps strengthen your brand overall, right? If not in your imagery and illustrations, at least have an avatar of your picture, of your logo, definitely in the messaging, right? In what it is you talk about, your bios, all that sort of stuff. And again, next week, we're gonna go deep dive into these different platforms. And I think we're gonna start with Instagram. I definitely wanna start with Instagram, and we'll do that on Monday. And we might pick some other ones, Twitter on Tuesday, and then we'll get into some other ones throughout the week. This weekend, however, if you go to patflynn.com/theincomestream, we do this every weekend. I do some website and video and YouTube channel reviews here on the channel, and we're gonna actually review some of yours. And then on Sunday, we're gonna do Sell Me Sunday, where I review sales pages and you try to sell me on the thing. And it's just an educational, fun way to learn the process of copywriting and sales pages and how to actually convince a person to part with money to have your solution and have everybody win. And that's the purpose there. And we do some fun interactive reviews there too. So anyway, let's get into some questions, and hopefully this was helpful for you. Xenia and Vlada says, why did you choose co-schedule over others? Number one, we just found it the best to integrate with the team that we have, because you can have different members on there, and they each have their own responsibilities, their own checklist. Within each post that they're supposed to do, we can see who is supposed to edit it, and when they edit it, they click a button, it's marked done, and then they go in and they draft it, they edit it, all that stuff is done, and I can see the progress of each of these things, and you can rinse and repeat. So once you get a system down, you can essentially just copy and paste another thing for the next post or the next podcast, and it just gets done. You just change the title, and then you can actually, it integrates with WordPress. So in fact, you can do all your scheduling, create new drafts, and all those sorts of things on CoSchedule that connect to your WordPress website, which is really cool. Elton says, would like to ask if there's any tool to help automate relationship building and connect with followers, like Twitter, HaveBot, or etc., because it's quite hard to maintain a relationship every time. There are tools out there. However, the big lesson I want to share with you is that you can't completely automate this entire thing. You just can't. You can automate bits and pieces of it, and I'd pay attention to, well, what are the things that you do repeatedly that seem to be things that you can mention every single time? However, if you try to automate everything, it's going to be very clear that it's not you. There are not that kind of AI yet available to us. There are tools out there and bots that can help engage with people, but even then, it can become very clear, especially once people start asking sort of individual questions that you don't have answers to in a bot. It becomes very clear that you're either a bot who doesn't care, or you don't have the answers, or you are just disingenuous and trying to pretend like you're somebody that you're not. And I think it's really important to understand that you can't scale everything. And especially when it comes to these individual relationships with people, sometimes you shouldn't scale. And in fact, it's the thing that doesn't scale that gets more results. So you can't. I've even seen people try to scale like Bonjoro videos, these videos that you can sort of send to people who purchase your stuff or subscribe to your email list, and they try to automate that. Like, okay, I'm going to create a video for all the Johns. I'm going to create a video. There's like how many names in the world? And that, like, just don't automate it. I think that you have to show up. It doesn't mean you have to show up and be on these platforms 24/7. I think there's a lot of parts of it that you can automate. For example, you can automate and have questions that are written ahead of time that get posted through tools like Meet Edgar or later.com. And that can then start a conversation. However, I would follow up still individually with some people on your own times, in your own schedule, when you can, realizing that I don't think there's an expectation that you can reply to everybody. And if you show up, that's a bonus. And that's why it's very impressive when you do show up and start to get personal with people, right? What's up, Krish Veer? Great to see you here. Thank you so much. I wonder sometimes about my avatar as a yoga pose. Would a face close-up be better, more reliable? Or more relatable? No, not necessarily. I like it showcases you and your ability and what it is that you're teaching. So I think that's fine. I think that you showing up is how you are interacting with your people and the conversations that you have, like you're showing up here, right? Like your avatar was not anything that ever came across my mind. And I've gotten to know you, Francis, through the review that we've done on your website and also just the conversations that we've had here for sure. Cool thing for a profile photo I saw lately was a cartoonified text popping out under a face. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a lot of great people out there doing some really fun and creative things. But the other thing about social media is that you can get very stir crazy on trying to make every piece of all your platforms perfect. Just get out there, make connections, and learn as you go. You can improve things over time. And I would try to maybe once a week, try to sort of see what you can do to improve. If you have a certain platform, okay, what's something that worked for us last week? Let's do more of that. What's something that didn't work or is not working or I can improve on? Okay, I'm gonna focus on that one thing this week. And that way you can just make incremental improvements over time. And even if you improve 1% every week, over time, that 1%, I mean, that's a hockey stick curve of exponential growth, the kind of curve that you don't want to flatten. And that comes with incremental improvement. Question says, co-schedule like Butter or Hootsuite, what's the difference? Or Buffer, sorry, I said Butter. It's something that best integrates with WordPress, and it's a lot cheaper than Hootsuite. And Buffer is more of a social media platform versus a content publishing platform overall. I love CoSchedule. Their founder is great. They have a lot of great tools. You can check them out for sure. Marla says, question, does it post directly to Instagram or is there another step with other programs? So with Later, it definitely publishes directly to Instagram. There's a lot of tools out there that don't essentially have the API to Instagram and you might have to have other tools. But I think whatever platform you choose to use, go, okay, well, what can help me do that? And that's where I would sort of have my focus, if that makes sense. Andrew says, question, did you say you were going to review sites? Yes, we've done probably a few dozen here over the course of the 71 days I've been going live, and we're going to do some more tomorrow. And yes, your website, your YouTube channel, some of your videos might have a chance. But it's more of a random sort of selection, and so you kind of have to get lucky. But if you show up, then you have a chance. If you don't show up, then it's not going to happen. But even if you don't get selected, it becomes very educational for people too. All right, 2 more questions here. Question from Corey. Can a Facebook page at times be better than a group to use just ongoing, park interesting things and support your channel and going off a niche a bit too? Yeah, we'll get into Facebook next week for sure. And Facebook pages were all the rage back in the day. In fact, some of my most popular videos here on YouTube were about creating a Facebook page and creating Facebook landing pages. But pages are not as great as they used to be. In fact, it's groups, in my opinion, where it's at, because that's where communication happens. That's where people can help each other. That's where people have an equal voice. Versus on a page, it's like just you as the commander-in-chief who is just not letting people talk or even be found because of the way pages are structured. In fact, I have a Facebook page of 185,000 likes or followers, and the best thing that that's for is for running retargeted Facebook ads, and that's essentially it. It's if you have a business and a brick and mortar business especially, then it's cool to sort of reserve your page there. It becomes a place for reviews and things like that. What's up? Hey Archer, no problem. Appreciate you being here. Happy bra day, everybody. Bruh. But yeah, I mean, a group is where it's at, in my opinion. Groups and community in that sort of fashion is the next big thing. This is why tools like circle.so have come out, which I am, full disclosure, an advisor for now. It's like the best of Facebook groups and Slack put together. I definitely recommend you check that out. I'm also a big fan of Mighty Networks. Mighty Networks is very similar, and creating your own place like a Facebook group, but you have control over it, a better experience in my opinion. I think that works really well. All right. A final question here from Xavier. Could you please repeat how much time you spend on social media sessions? So I spend about 30 minutes a day on social media, and I'm blasting through, I'm interacting with people. I have a post that's like when I start my social media sessions, it's like I post something typically, and then I will at the end of my social media session start interacting with people who have answered that question to show that there's like some real time stuff there. And then I know there's gonna be questions and comments that come in later that I just cannot get to. I will get to them the next day and I miss some, and you just gotta be okay with that. As long as you're showing up, those things do pop up in the algorithms, and it shows that you are involved in the community, and it also gives me time and space to focus on my other priorities as well. And Andre says, what are your thoughts on using paid social media advertising to create initial traction and followers instead of relying on slower organic growth? I think if you have the budget for that, it can work out really well. It also allows you to provide some social proof for new people who are coming through. I don't mind that at all. What I do mind is trying to pay for just followers and just trying to buy buckets of people. I think if you can pay and actually care and want to help those people out, then that's where it would make sense. And if you have that budget, yeah, for sure. Question, I signed up for your pup, but as I'm looking at it already, podcast follow most of your steps and shows. Should I instead sign up for Amped? Yes, Rhino. I would ask for a refund and get into Amped. In fact, if I were you, you've likely already launched your podcast, and Power Up Podcasting is about launching your podcast. It can potentially give you some good foundational stuff to help you take the next steps, and especially the post-launch stuff, but Amped Up is where you probably want to be. So just reach out to help@teamspi.com and we'll help you out from there. Anyway, y'all, we had a great conversation today about social media. If you could pop in the chat before you go what the number one thing is that you learned today, that'd be really helpful for everybody and myself. And I'm just so thankful for your time and attention today. Tomorrow we're going to do some website reviews, website review weekend. So come in tomorrow, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, patflynn.com/theincomestream. Hope you enjoy this. Before you go, make sure you hit that thumbs up button too. And for those of you watching the replay, if you could leave a comment for me after this, that'd be really helpful for the algorithm and the engagement and helping people realize that this is something that's useful. And you can leave a comment too with your most favorite tip as well, and the thing that you took away that's probably going to help you the most. I'd love and appreciate you for sharing that. And hopefully you come in tomorrow. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you for all the super chats that came in. We're going to end the month very strong and donate some equipment to those in the medical field through Project Cure this month, and very thankful for everybody's support for that. Not required, but I'll happily accept that, pass it on to those who need it. And yeah, wow, what a great conversation today. Thank you so much. Social media, it's where it's at, but we need to control it. We need to also show up, and we need to understand what our other priorities are too. But you need to get interested in other people's stuff. You need to get interested in who it is that's following you, what they need help with, and in return, you're going to get more attention than you could ever imagine. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Team Flynn for the win, as always. Hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow, and take care. Thanks so much, and as always, you're the best.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Thanks so much, everybody. Stay safe. 71 days straight. How crazy is that? It's gone by so quickly. We're going to get to 100 in no time, and I'm going to do something special on day 100. So make sure you stick around. Please subscribe. patflynn.com/theincomestream. I appreciate you. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow for weekend website reviews. Peace out.